Okay. We're going to be reading about the Treaty of Paris. And the Treaty of Paris is something that was signed to show that the war was over.
From World War II?
From the Revolutionary War. That's what you're learning about in social studies.
Oh, fine.
With George Washington. Okay, so to do this, I divided this paper into parts, and when you see the line, that's where you're going to wrap. Do you remember what wrap stands for?
R. Read the paragraph. A. Ask yourself, what is the main idea and details? P. Paraphrase.
Exactly. So you got to be thinking about what you're reading so that when you get to where it says wrap, you can tell what the main idea of that paragraph was, and you can tell two details. Okay, so I'll read the first part out loud and I'll do the first wrap. The end of the war was coming. The colonists were going to beat Britain. Charles Cornwallis was leading the British army. He took his army to Virginia. Cornwallis attacked the capital. The governor had to run away. Then Cornwallis made a huge mistake. He should have sent half of his army to New York, but he went to Yorktown. Yorktown was a little piece of land. It was near the water. Cornwallis thought that British ships would come to help him. Okay, so I read the paragraph. Now I'm going to ask myself, what is the main
idea and the details?
Yep, so the main idea of that paragraph was that the war was coming to an end. So that's what I would write here. The war was coming to an end, and I found that right here. Okay, then I can pick any two details from this. So one detail that I could pick would be that
Cornwallis made a huge mistake?
Yeah, that was a big detail, that Cornwallis made a huge mistake. So I could write that here for detail 1. Detail 2...
Instead, he goes to Yorktown.
Yeah, he went to Yorktown because it was near the water. Now, the paraphrase. Yep. Now I gotta put that paragraph in my own words. You wanna help me? Well, one thing you can do is you can always start with the main idea and the details that we had. So the main idea was that the war was coming to an end.
Yeah, I'll let you know about the part until he make a big mistake about just a whole army for New York, but then he go to Yorktown because it's close to... It's actually Yorktown? Or
Yeah, it was close to the water.
It's close to the water.
Yeah, so sometimes if you need to, you can look back. So the war was coming to an end, and the colonists were going to beat Britain. But Cornwallis, he made a huge mistake, and he went to Yorktown when he should have gone to New York. Do you remember why he went to Yorktown?
Because he just made a huge mistake about the army thing. He's supposed to bring a whole army.
Well, he brought his army there, but he thought he went to Yorktown because it was near the water, and he thought that British ships would come to help him. Okay? All right, read this second paragraph.
There's George Washington in here.
Mm-hmm.
George Washington knew that this was his chance. If he trapped Cornwallis, the war would be over. He took his army south from New York. A group of ships from France came. They blocked water. Cornwallis could not get any help. The trap had worked. Cornwallis had fewer men than Washington. Washington knew this. He fired cannons at Cornwallis for many days. He did not help.
He did not stop.
Not help. Stop.
Many of Cornwallis's troops were hurt or killed. They could not rest. Cornwallis did not quit for a couple of weeks. Soon he knew it was hopeless. He was running out of food. They had to surrender. You know what surrender means?
Like, he surrendered, like, surrender, they won the game.
Or they gave up.
Gave up.
Okay? So you read the paragraph. Now you need to ask yourself, what was the main idea of this paragraph? What was this paragraph mostly about?
About George Washington knew he knew that this was his chance.
What was his chance?
About for Washington of Cornwallis. I have no idea for that.
He knew it was his chance to do what? What ended up happening in this paragraph?
They were out of food and
They were out of
hopeless,
food. It was hopeless, so they had to.
They surrender to give
Okay.
up.
Yeah. So George Washington knew that this was his chance. So that means that this was his chance.
To trap Cornwallis.
Yep. And then what would happen?
War would be over.
Mm-hmm. So how could we say what the main idea was? Without looking and just reading it word for word. What was the main idea?
About George Washington's chance to, I think it's trapped or something about Cornwallis, and to end the war.
Right. So George Washington knew that if he trapped Cornwallis, the war would be over. Yep. And you're right. A lot of times we can find the main idea towards the beginning of the paragraph. But sometimes just the first sentence isn't quite enough. Sometimes we got to think a little bit more. So can you tell me 2 details from this? What were 2 details from this
They
paragraph?
surrender and hurt.
Who's
and
they?
hopeless. Oh.
The colonists or the British?
I think was the British.
Yeah, the British had to surrender. What would be another detail?
Because they were hopeless and running out of food.
Yep. Okay, now can you put that paragraph in your own words?
Yeah, I think so. About all the half beginning one, I could remember it. Let's see. George Washington was his best chance for trapped Cornwallis, and they surrendered from the British. They surrendered because they ran out of food, and they were hopeless, and the war could be over.
Okay. All right, the next paragraph. It was clear that the Americans had won the war. Britain was shocked that they had lost. They just couldn't believe that the colonists could beat their army. Britain said they would talk about peace. It was time for the war to end. The talk started in Paris. It was 1782. Some colonists went to England. They would work out the treaty. What treaty are they talking about?
To treat them?
What's the treaty? The treaty of?
Treat, determinedly or just something.
What's this whole thing about?
About the war to be over, a revolution war. Oh, Treaty of Paris.
Yeah, so the talk started in Paris, and they're talking about the treaty. They're talking about the Treaty of Paris. Britain just wanted everything to be over. They gave the Americans almost everything that they wanted. Okay, so what's this paragraph about? What's the main idea?
About Paris in 1782.
Yeah, that's where they were. But what's the main idea? Look towards the beginning of the paragraph.
It was clear that American won the war.
So then what's the main idea?
American won the war.
Americans won the war. Okay, and what's one detail from this paragraph?
Britain was shocked and lost, and
Well, try it.
Paris. Oh, come on! I think that was.
You're telling me
more
things that are in
details.
it, but what was one detail?
The Britain were shocked that they lost.
Britain was shocked that they lost. Yeah.
I bet you say one more detail, and it's kind of about it.
Yeah, one more detail.
American won the war.
Well, that was the main idea. Yeah.
The war was over.
That's the same thing. Okay, so